My name is Steve Chizmar, Bureau Director for PennDOT's Bureau of Innovations. It is my pleasure to host a series of podcasts celebrating the 10th anniversary of Pennsylvania's State Transportation Innovation Council, or STIC for short. The second installment of the STIC's 10th anniversary podcast series focuses on successful STIC and Federal Highway Administration everyday counts innovations from the past decade. Today's episode will highlight high-friction surface treatment, an innovative technique to improve the safety of motorists at high-priority crash locations throughout the Commonwealth. High-friction surface treatment is a Federal Highway Administration everyday counts Round 2 innovation that Pennsylvania championed. I am pleased to welcome Jason Hershock, Manager in the Safety Engineering and Risk Management Unit in PennDOT's Bureau of Operations, and Neil Hood, District Safety Engineer in PennDOT's District 9 office. Both have been heavily involved with developing and institutionalizing the use of high-friction surface treatments across Pennsylvania, and I'm excited to hear more about this safety-first pavement treatment from their perspective. Welcome, Jason and Neil.
Thank you.
Okay, the first question is really for both of you. We're going to take this in parts, though, but can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your involvement in the development and deployment of high-friction surface treatment? Or we're probably just going to call it HFST from this point forward. So, Jason, why don't you go first?
Sure. Yeah. So as you said before, I currently manage the Safety Engineering and Risk Management Unit. I've been an engineer for probably over 22 years now. Yeah, it has been about 22 years or more. I worked for a consultant from 2001 to 2004 as a structural engineer, and then left and joined PennDOT in 2004. Working for the Bureau of Construction Materials as a materials and construction engineer, and then joined District 8's traffic unit in 2007, working in safeties and studies. And then I became a supervisor over there. And then my first involvement with HFST was while I was at District 8 as the supervisor of safety and studies unit. We put together a contract that deployed several locations for HFST. And then just in August of 2015, I was promoted into this current position where I now work with national efforts on high friction surface treatment research and oversee the Hfst program and low cost safety improvement programs that fund a lot of these high friction surface treatments.
Thank you, Jason. And Neil, same question to you. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what your involvement is with the HFST.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm traffic safety engineering section supervisor, District 9. I've been working in traffic engineering since about 2012. Back before that, a couple of stints just coming out of college in 2010, worked in a contract management background for a little bit. I had been working in construction in the summers during college, so that married together, but I decided to make a change, move back to Central PA where I grew up, and I went to college at UPJ, also part of Central PA, and kind of your land, Steve, where you grew up. But so been in this area for over 10 years now, and most of my involvement with high friction thus far has been finding the priority locations in the district that would have the greatest benefit from its deployment. Since 17, we've installed about 30 locations in the district, about 10 locations prior to 17, and we have a pretty good handful of future deployments coming out here over the next couple years. A lot of what we do in this section is, like I said, evaluate, find the locations that are most beneficial, and then we have a in-house design staff that basically takes the baton for us, and they'll assist us in developing the plans and provisions to get bid on by contractors. So.
Well, thanks, Neil. Yeah, and at UPJ, what a great school. I almost went there. I actually ended up going to IUP though. So, but yeah, UPJ is such a great campus up there on top of the hill.
Yeah, yep, I agree.
Jason, we're going to throw this first question your way. When did PennDOT first start using HFST, and why did the department advocate for its use in Pennsylvania?
I guess I'll start with the why. Lane departures in Pennsylvania are responsible for 50 to 54% of all fatal crashes in the Commonwealth. Pretty big number. To groom the data a little bit more, most of those happen on rural 2-lane roads, and specifically on horizontal curves. These 2-lane curve locations make up about 10%, maybe up to 15% of our entire roadway network, but account for over 50% of our annual highway fatalities. So we're always looking for new ways to reduce these lane departures. So high friction surface treatments, HFST, was presented as an option for the state. So our first use, the pilot for HFST, was in our engineering district 5, the Allentown area, for those who aren't familiar with where that's at. It was first deployed in Northampton County on State Route 611. The location had a history of 21 wet road crashes in just the one southbound direction between 1997 to 2005, with multiple injuries and including 2 fatalities. So the district was willing to try the new high friction surface treatment at Route 611. And if anybody wants to know, it's the exact location, segment 40. The high friction surface treatment was relatively new and it was hand applied. Today we use other methods to do it, but it was hand applied with squeegees, simply pouring buckets of epoxy binder on there and then shoveling the calcined bauxite aggregates over top of that and letting it cure. So everybody waited a few years to see how the high friction surface treatments, the HFSTs, would hold up and if they would reduce crashes. Well, the HFST material held up and it pretty much eliminated the crashes at this location. The crash data for 8 years after the HFST was installed at the Route 611 location, and that would have been June 2007 to June 2015, showed all crashes were completely eliminated at this location. Shortly after the initial installation, some other shorter term evaluations, a few other districts joined District 5 and were willing to try HFST at different locations. I was a district 8er at that time, so I was one of those districts that jumped on board and tried it out. So soon enough, more and more districts tried it after we had, soon we had dozens of locations across the state.
Well, thanks, Jason. Let's continue that discussion a little bit. What were some of the largest hurdles faced in developing HFST for implementation here in PA? And, how did you all overcome those hurdles and get PennDOT districts to really embrace this technology?
Well, the effort to start installing HFST was before my time as a manager for safety infrastructure here at Central Office. There was a person named Chris Spees and Gary Modi that were in the safety section, Central Office side. So they did that. I guess they got the pitch for this and wanted to find districts that wanted to entertain this option. So as this sort of said for the previous answer, the District 5 piloted, District 8 got in behind there, and then a lot of districts followed. So when I got down to Central Office, we still didn't have every district on board for high friction surface treatments, which was surprising from a personal side and just knowing what our biggest crash risk is for fatals. So to convince every district that HFST was worthwhile, we studied the locations and had at least 3 years of after crash data for those locations we were studying. We found that the high friction surface treatment worked great at reducing not just certain crashes like wet road or hot hit fixed objects. It reduced all crash types. It was like the silver bullet of safety countermeasures. It really, we have a lot of different countermeasures that are very specific to a crash type. This worked on so many different crashes. The key to making the countermeasure work is picking good locations for the countermeasure. We picked locations that had crash histories of lane departures, wet roads, surfaces, high friction, or hit fixed objects, and other related crashes. And sure enough, the high friction surface treatment countermeasure reduced even eliminated these crashes when it was deployed. Once we had data to back up the countermeasure, it was hard for people to say it. They still would not use the high friction surface treatments. So success breeds more success, I would say.
Oh, thank you, Jason. Now let's switch the questions to you now. Can you tell us a little bit more about the benefits of HFST? And I know you both touched on that, obviously in great detail so far. But can you also share some specific experiences from your district?
Yeah, looking at our district and looking at our recent deployments, I say back to 2015 up to within the last couple years, we're seeing in aggregate a 50% reduction in all crashes. And like Jason said, that's a silver bullet in the safety world, related to highway infrastructure. And when I say 50%, I'm including a couple intersections we've done, not just the curves that we mentioned that are so beneficial. We actually have curve locations, especially if they were related to wet crashes on those curves, zeroing out right after deployment of this stuff. It's really been beneficial in that realm. And being the district we have here, we have a lot of roads that basically intersect mountain ridges. So the challenges of geometry are there that, and they're not going to go away. But this is one of the things that have helped, where we have these severe changes in alignment and you have high speeds rolling in and changing direction, and drivers are either sometimes taken off guard or just a little too trusting of themselves, and the friction demand it's much greater than what's available, and we've yielded the best benefit there. But like I said, we've tried some intersection deployments, and we are seeing a benefit there as well. Maybe not as much as the curves, but we're still going after that as an extra measure with intersections too. So we've had good success so far, and we want to continue that.
Well, thank you, Neil. Obviously, I've heard you folks talking about this as being a silver bullet for certain types of crashes, and clearly, I mean, the state and ultimately the folks who are using our roads are seeing the biggest benefit of that. Yeah, Jason, can you expand a little bit on what Neil's been saying, and can you share any stats on what benefits you are seeing statewide in terms of a reduction of crashes and fatalities at locations where we're using this product?
Sure. Well, I'll just start off. We're actually getting ready to develop a statewide high friction surface treatment crash modification factor by looking at 315 locations across the state where we applied high friction surface treatments in just Pennsylvania. We're going to enlist the help of Penn State University to look at before and after data and determine the statistical significance of the high friction surface treatments. So that's a big one that we have coming up. That's going to be very comprehensive. But there were other studies done. One was completed by a gentleman, Dave Merritt, out of TransTech Group for the FHWA's Low Cost Safety Improvement Pooled Fund Study Group. The study included high friction surface treatments from 6 states and used 61 HFST locations in Pennsylvania. We were the largest contributing state to that study. The results of that study showed wet road crashes were reduced by 83.2%. Wet road crashes were reduced by 72%. Injury crashes were reduced by almost 50%, and total crashes were reduced by 57%. At several locations in Pennsylvania, we saw fatal injury crashes completely eliminated after high friction surface treatments were installed. High friction surface treatments are, again, the silver bullet countermeasure for highway safety.
Obviously, we've been talking a lot about the benefits of HFST, and clearly we're seeing a reduction in crashes, and ultimately the folks who are benefiting from this product are the folks who are using Pennsylvania roads every day. But that said, with new technologies, there often comes an increased costs. But let me ask you, what would you tell a district or even a local municipality who may be interested in using HFST, but they're somewhat concerned about the initial costs compared to traditional pavements?
Well, when you talk about these specific locations and where there's problems, we look at it like the benefit far outweighs the cost.
Jason, the STIC, and you've been involved with the STIC for a while. The STIC's motto is innovation through collaboration. Can you tell the listeners how collaboration helped in advancing HFST here in PA?
Sure. I guess I just start. I sort of have a unique perspective in seeing this from the district side and central office side, as well as a national perspective, serving on several national panels and research groups specific to high friction surface treatment and countermeasures. So I would just say this isn't just a district or a central office effort. Districts had to be willing to try out the HFST countermeasure, and central office had to work hard to develop good construction standards, qualify specialized materials, and be willing to work with contractors and material suppliers to ensure a quality product. So a person I know that's not on this call, Alberto Medina, has taken care of a lot of those construction aspects. And so we definitely talk about all the, the crashes and everything. But if this wasn't, taken care of by coming up with good testing standards and good specifications to make sure it, doesn't peel off the road and everything, we probably wouldn't be here to talk about it. We discuss proper installation with our construction inspection staff to ensure the HFST is installed correctly, and have listened to the construction inspectors tell us about any possible issues they may have during installation so we can improve the construction specifications. And it's made a big difference. We haven't had any major failures during the construction phase that have led to just a catastrophic issue with high friction surface treatments. So that, comparing that to some other states that I know we deal with, they've had some issues, or they maybe had bad specs that maybe hindered their HFST deployments. But we were fortunate. We had a really good cohesive team here that made sure that we found good locations. We had, central office, the districts found funding for it. And then we had the support of the construction and as Neil mentioned before, get some designers in to support developing contracts for this. So it was very, essential in, that initial pilot too, using maintenance crews and contractors to do that. So our planning partners too have even found this countermeasure worthwhile, and sometimes rather than suggesting a large costly project, they will maybe ask that we use this HFST first to see if that would be a good project itself.
That's great to hear. I mean, clearly HFST. I mean, it was one of the earlier products to come through the STIC, and this is, the proof is in the pudding. Clearly, this is working here in PA. Jason, what other safety countermeasures are out there currently that you're excited to see being implemented in PA now, or even looking a few months, few years into the future?
Well, I'll start with some of our proven countermeasures that we've deployed. Hands down, I like rumble strips. We are still adding them to roads every year. They are still the most effective and lowest cost safety countermeasure we have. Although friction surface treatments, the HFST is giving it a rival here. They're both very effective. The high tension cable medium barriers, you probably see those across our freeways and interstates all over the place. Now cover the length of Pennsylvania, equivalent to driving from, say, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to like Chicago, Illinois. That's how much high tension cable medium barrier we've installed, and we've had many photographs so far where it stopped large trucks, even school buses, from crossing over into oncoming traffic. And so these are very effective, and we would love to continue to put these all across our freeways to prevent those catastrophic, usually fatal and definitely serious injury type crashes. In the future, I'd like to see more data-driven methods used to apply the best safety countermeasures possible to the most effective use of our safety funds. There's keep on being a big push for more data-driven methods, and there's a lot more research on the data-driven methods and how to apply the best countermeasures that are out there. So I think with design manuals and standards getting updated to what's called a performance-based design nationally, safety is going to become part of every project, and that's going to be exciting because that's where we should be at with safety. Safety should be in every project.
What a great way to close that discussion there. Kind of a sidebar. My wife and I just got back from Colorado, and I'm not an engineer. I've been with the department about 28 years, and primarily I was a press guy for many, many years here at PennDOT. But I'm a transportation nerd. I really am. Anyhow, we just got back from Colorado. We were going down this one mountain road, and there was no traffic behind me. But my wife thought I was crazy because we came into this one turn, and I actually stopped the car to go out and fill the pavement. It looked like HFST. I couldn't tell for sure, but it had the different color, the right texture. So
I've been guilty of that on vacation too. Where was it? We were down in Miami And it was when the RRFBs, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, were starting to come out, and they had them all over the place in Miami. And I'm down on vacation with my wife, enjoying it, and I see these, and yeah, I went into nerd mode and had to push the button and walk across the crosswalk to see it flashing and see if cars are there. And she's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm still walking to get dinner here." So
Yeah, they have those everywhere out there. Oh, I know. But she's like, "What are you doing? Get back in the car. I got to check this out." Okay, folks, we're almost at the close here. Neil, do you have any advice or tips for interested individuals enthusiastic about innovations on how to get buy-in and the support necessary to pilot those innovations and move them forward here in PA?
Well, I mean, I'm an advocate of innovation. I really am. A lot of these countermeasures we're talking about are really starting to take steam. Jason mentioned the rumble strips. They've been around a while, but we're still yielding benefit from them. Things like the high friction, the roundabouts, these different ITS devices are on the cutting edge, and we're getting them out and deployed more, and that's good. But the bottom line, a lot of that stuff took a lot of hard work in the background to get it initiated. And with any innovation, you got to do the background work. You have to do test by trial like Jason did in District 8 and with District 5 with the high friction. Got to gain the numbers and the experience first to get people on board and motivate it forward to become bigger and better things. So looks good on paper, but you gotta work with your players, sort things out, get the bugs out, and then those innovations start to yield the greatest success. So I think we're working that way right now.
It has been great talking to the two of you, and look forward to working with both you here, and either through the STIC or other avenues as we move forward. Thank you for joining us today and for helping us celebrate the PA STIC's 10th anniversary and its efforts to develop and deploy innovations across Pennsylvania. Visit www.penndot.pa.gov/STIC to learn more about the PA STIC and how we are innovating transportation in Pennsylvania.